YouTube, I'm gonna make a hot take in this video, and you probably saw the title, although I'm not sure it's a hot take. You know, it could just be my Sixers fan bias showing through in this video, but you ready for the take? Because here it is. The Philadelphia 76ers have officially won the 2024 NBA offseason, and I'm not sure it's even close, folks. In this video, we're gonna talk about everything the Sixers have done this offseason and why I think they have done the best job of any team, the absolute masterclass performance of, I guess, front officing out of Daryl Morey and company, what the roster needs moving forward, and why I think they're up there with the Celtics and the Knicks at this point. Let's get right into the video, folks. So, elephant in the room, the Sixers signed Paul George, right? And, you know, the Paul George signing obviously puts the Sixers right in, maybe like, you know, the top of the top as far as high-end NBA talent, as far as one roster is concerned. You know, you have Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George. Right away, this could be the best elite talent pairing in the NBA. That has to be stated first and foremost. You know, their top-end talent is about as good as it gets, I'd say, across the league. So, after the Paul George signing, you know, I had some questions about the depth, right? How are they going to be able to, you know, fill out this roster, right? At the time of that signing, we had like 4 players under contract and not a ton of flexibility to go out and get more talent. Well, I got news for you, folks. That's why Daryl Morey makes the big bucks, because, you know, basically directly after that, he had already signed Kelly Oubre, you know, minutes before that. But again, there were very few people on the roster, right? So Daryl Morey goes out, he gets Andre Drummond on a 2-year, $10 million contract to back up Joel Embiid. I think it's a great move. Signs Eric Gordon to a 1-year minimum, a guy that can shoot the ball exceptionally well and score at that guard position. Secures Tyrese Maxey long-term with a 5-year max extension. Drafts Jarad McCain 16th overall, which, you know, could be the best shooter in the entire class other than maybe Reed Shepherd of the Houston Rockets. Drafts a 3rd-string center in Adem Bona from UCLA, 41st overall in the draft. So now, you know, the roster is starting to take shape a little bit, but there's still a ton of room to be, you know, messed around with in terms of these, you know, how are you going to get 12 players on this roster that can compete, right? At this point, it's like, you know, you got a couple point guards, Tyrese Maxey, Jarad McCain, you got Eric Gordon, Kelly Oubre at the 2 guard maybe. At the 3, you got Paul George, Ricky Council, you know, who I like quite a bit. And then the 4, there's just a gaping hole in that, you know, power forward position, right? But at the 5, you got Joel Embiid and Andre Drummond, right? So my biggest question was like, how are we going to get a power forward to complement these pieces, right? That we, you know, have acquired through the offseason and things like that. Sixers go out and poach, you know, a rival forward in Caleb Martin, steal him away from the Heat. You know, there's a whole situation going on with that contract and his agents, you know, maybe doing a little bit of a blunder there in that situation, but that's not what we're here to talk about in this video. Sixers got Caleb Martin, and that's what is important for this video. Caleb Martin's not really a power forward, right? He can play power forward. I would expect him to play power forward for the Sixers most of the time. We're going to talk about the positional, you know, flexibility and that stuff a little later on in the video, but basically my point is, you know, Daryl Morey has absolutely gamed the system as best as any GM possibly could hope to. You know, we're about like 2 weeks into the offseason, and this is already all the things the Sixers have done. Now, while I think, again, right now, you know, assuming these roster spots get filled out pretty competently, which I would imagine they will from Daryl Morey, there still are some question marks, right? You know, you look at the number of players on the roster right now, and quite frankly, it's not enough, right? Sixers need a little bit more depth going forward. We'll talk about the strengths and weaknesses in a little bit, but right now I want to talk about, you know, what does this team still need as far as a roster position, you know, a certain type of skill set, certain type of profile from a player, you know, height, weight, and all that stuff. I think positionally, you know, you'd like to have a little bit more of a traditional power forward, you know, that can shoot the 3 decently and defend a traditional power forward. You're gonna run into guys like, you know, Kristaps Porzingis and Julius Randle. You know, these are big guys, and, you know, physically, these are large humans that, you know, a guy like Caleb Martin, who's a little bit undersized for a 4, I know he's a dog and a defensive competitor and a versatile defender, but quite frankly, the Sixers don't really have anybody on the roster that can, you know, one-on-one defend someone like a Julius Randle, right? And they could employ a lot of different tactics to avoid a one-on-one situation with a Julius Randle, with a Kristaps Porzingis, but at the end of the day, man, I just think, you know, having a backup power forward of that size and skill set, even if it's, you know, a backup caliber player, could help the Sixers depth a little bit, right, in that regard. So that's the one thing I think the Sixers need to target. We've heard rumors about Dorian Finney-Smith, right, being a trade asset of the Brooklyn Nets. Sixers maybe want to send a couple picks over there and a player to get Dorian Finney-Smith back in a trade. He would fit that profile absolutely flawlessly. That's remained to be seen, right, because right now we have 3 wings wings basically that are going to be playing the forward and two guard position. They just don't have that type of athletic profile. Paul George, Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, these are wings, right? And you lose Paul Reed, basically waiving him, you know, because of that signing with Caleb Martin. You want to get a little bit more roster flexibility, so, you know, he's out of the question. That's a guy I think the Sixers could look at. Another thing the Sixers I think are lacking a little bit is playmaking and a traditional point guard, right? We've heard all the rumors about Kyle Lowry and how Kyle Lowry is expected to return to the 76ers, but, you know, I don't think Kyle Lowry is a guy you want to lose right now, especially with the type of skill set I just described that, you know, the Sixers need, which is a playmaking point guard that can maybe provide a little value on both ends. Not necessarily a starting caliber playmaker, right? Like, I'm not sure you need a 35-minute a game type of guy that you can always count on, but Kyle Lowry I think fits that bill pretty well, right? He'd come in off the bench, provide a lot of playmaking, run an offense as a traditional ball handler and playmaker, relieve a lot of pressure from guys like Tyrese Maxey. You know, the guards definitely need to be filled out as far as depth wise. You know, I think you do need a kind of veteran playmaking type of point guard, traditional, again, that can shoot and, you know, maybe defend a little bit, right? Another thing is size in the backcourt, right? This is a really small backcourt just looking at it, right? Unless you're planning to, you know, start Kelly Oubre at the 2, which I think is a possibility, you're gonna have to, you know, bulk up and get a little bit more height and length in that backcourt to be able to defend some of these bigger guards like Drew Holiday. Length is always going to be important in the guard position when you're going against guys like Jalen Brunson. So Damian Lillard, another Eastern Conference guard, you know, the Cavaliers with Mitchell and Garland, you know, these are guys you need a little bit of length and athleticism to be able to defend. I know Kelly Oubre is going to be the number one guy to do that probably for the Sixers as the roster is constructed right now, but, you know, this team needs more playmaking and bigger guards. That's what I think, you know, and even if you want to say, you know, the best guard on the team is going to be taking, you know, traveling Kelly Oubre and Paul George and Caleb Martin are going to take those responsibilities, whatever. At the end of the day, you know, as this roster is constructed right now, you'll still end up having two guards on the floor that are really small at the same time. So something's got to give there, right? You can't have two 6-foot guys on the floor at all times, you know, and expecting a great backcourt defense. So we'll see what happens there. You know, I think that is a priority that the Sixers need to look at. Other than that, I think the, you know, another quality, you know, playable wing in the playoffs, you know, a good rotation piece at the wing could be good. Unfortunately, injuries happen, you know, and you have 3 really solid wings right now and a star wing in Paul George, but those 3 guys can't play 48 minutes a game, and, you know, someone's going to have to come in eventually and, you know, relieve the wings. It could be Ricky Council IV. You know, he's already on the roster. We'll have to see what his development looks like, but, you know, that is something I think the Sixers could look at. We've heard rumors about Robert Covington maybe returning on a 1-year deal, a veteran minimum. We've heard about, you know, Marcus Morris Sr., who is a Philly native, who, you know, I loved as the Sixers, you know, basically got him midway through the season, and he actually can provide some offense still in his, you know, late stage of his career. So that's a guy I think they could look for at the power forward position. But yeah, I gotta say, I really can't complain too much as a Sixers fan. You know, you gotta take what you can get if you are a Sixers fan. You know, I'm sure that some of you guys watching this video right now that know what it's like to be a Sixers fan will agree with that, because the Sixers are big demonstrators of Murphy's Law, which basically states what can go wrong will go wrong. And if you are a Philly sports fan, you know all about that. So gotta take what you can get, right? And I'm sure Daryl's got more plans up his sleeve, but, you know, at the time we're recording this video, the Sixers still have a ton of draft picks they could trade for, you know, some depth in those regards. There's still things they can do with the cap a little bit, right? Like, there's still a cap hold on KJ Martin, you know, so there's things they could be doing, right? And I'm sure Daryl will figure it out, but, you know, I'm just stating what I think some of the, you know, depth issues are. But right now, man, the starting 5 looks immaculate. I think playmaking and a little bit more size across the board is the goal. But I want to get into the skill sets and why I think, you know, Caleb Martin and these wings being prioritized in the offseason makes so much sense for the Sixers, right? If you look at, you know, the injury history of Joel Embiid, it's pretty obvious that he has struggled to stay on the floor throughout the playoffs, right? No question about it. I think one of the biggest things that gets overlooked in this regard, people just say, oh, he's fragile, he's made of glass, whatever. I don't think it's that simple, right? Joel Embiid's usage rate is insane on both ends of the floor. I mean, he has to cover so much mistakes on the defensive end of the floor throughout his career and be basically the hub of the offense throughout an entire game. You look at his on-off numbers, they're absolutely insane. When he takes a rest, the Sixers plummet in productivity. And I think defense, rebounding, and scoring, you know, he just can't be the number one guy in all those categories every time, right? And now you want him to be a great playmaker on the double team. So that is why, you know, maybe the biggest reason I think getting a guy like Paul George to come in and relieve some of that offensive pressure and usage can free him up energy-wise to be able to take a little bit of a breather sometimes offensively and focus more on defense and rebounding and all those other things, right? No one's saying your best player doesn't have to be your best player, but what I am saying is that he can't be expected to do everything at all times at an elite level for 48 minutes in the playoffs. That's just never how it's worked for anybody. I think think it wears him down throughout the season to have to do all of that heavy lifting on both ends of the floor, right? Why I think Caleb Martin is such a good move, right? And having three, wings in the lineup with defensive versatility is because as opposed to getting a power forward, a traditional one like Tobias Harris, right? Putting three wings in the lineup is really gonna allow Joel Embiid to, focus more on rebounding, right? Rebounding is not always something he's been so prolific at, I guess you could say, throughout his career. I mean, he's always pretty much averaged a double-double, but, his defensive rebound at times is lackluster from a player of his size and skills and just ability, right? But a lot of times, going up for those contested defensive boards after you contest a shot on almost every possession is just a little too much to expect from a center. And again, I repeat, as far as having one power forward and, kind of a smaller guard and another wing, that's not the best. I think having defensive versatility and switchability 2 through 4 is going to make a lot of sense for Embiid to be able to play a lot more of a natural and passive defensive play style as far as him being able to go up and get rebounds, right? So him not having to cover everyone's mistakes all the time with, again, the 2 through 4 guard ability and switchability and versatility is going to be so massive for this defense, right? And so the things expected of him to win will naturally go down quite a bit when you have a lot of other players that can contribute in a meaningful way, right? That's something the Sixers have lacked for a long time. Sixers have always struggled at the wing position, man, as far as I can remember in the Embiid era. And, this is going to be a different type of approach from Coach Nurse, I would imagine, on both ends of the floor moving forward. One which will allow Joel Embiid to take a more natural role, like you see a lot of other superstars do. They don't have to do everything all the time on both ends for their team to win. And I think this will help Joel Embiid gradually through the season get the rest that he needs and still make a high seed in the playoffs. And then, go into the playoffs fully charged, barring any freak accident. We're all knocking on wood here as Sixers fans that Joel Embiid, this is the year he's going to go into the playoffs at full strength. We'll have to see. They just got to figure out a way to where he doesn't have to do everything all season long to get into the playoffs. We talked about all the offseason moves, right? We talked about why I think they make so much sense, why I think Daryl Morey absolutely finessed the entire league, right? Taking away a guy like Caleb Martin from the competitors, the Miami Heat, right? A real threat in the Eastern Conference. Signing a guy like Paul George to relieve Joel Embiid and Maxey offensively, right? You have three absolutely, startable caliber two-way wings, which is something the Sixers have lacked for a long time, as I stated. You draft a lot of shooting and, kind of a high ceiling player offensively in Jarad McCain, in my opinion. And we'll have to see what his role is this season, but you get two really solid role players to maybe come off the bench in Drummond and Eric Gordon. There still are, things to be done, right? There's still work to be done always in the NBA, but at this point, I can't really complain too much, as I stated before. The two things Daryl Morey should target moving forward is size across the board, primarily in the backcourt and the power forward position. Again, maybe one more playable depth wing piece. And like I said, size and playmaking in the backcourt is the priority at this point. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, man. Make sure you guys let me know down in the comment section if you agree with my takes. It doesn't have to be, you guys agree, but I just want to hear feedback, man. You guys have been so supportive with the feedback throughout the last few days. And if you want to see more content just like this, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We're going to be uploading NBA content just like this every single day on this channel. All things NBA every day, right? Could be news, free agency, team reviews. We just did a Memphis Grizzlies basically deep dive of why I think they're so slept on in the Western Conference, and you guys really seem to enjoy that, man. That video did really well, so thank you guys for the support on that one. Like I said, deep dives could be on your favorite team next, right? So make sure you guys subscribe if you guys don't want to miss stuff like that every day on the channel, man. We're gonna be uploading stuff like that. Thank you guys for watching all the way to the end. Sixers fans, we got a lot to look forward to, right? I'm not trying to get too excited because you know how that goes as a Sixers fan, you just get let down, right? But this is really promising, man. It really looks like this is a situation where maybe I'm not actually being gaslit into being excited this year, and maybe I actually have something to be excited for realistically, right? I think realistically this is a team that can challenge Boston and New York, barring any injuries or anything crazy happening that I don't foresee. I don't know how I can't be excited, man. This is the most exciting offseason I've ever had as a Sixers fan. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Links are down in the description to all my socials, primarily Twitter. Make sure you guys follow that. Link down in the description, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Sixers fans, stay blessed, man. We got a ton to look forward to. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day today. I'm sorry for doing all this Sixers stuff, man. I have to cover it. It's just so pressing on my mind, right? I'm so excited for it, and I can't not talk about it. And that's what this channel's for. I know I get a little bit too crazy with my Sixers sometimes. Probably most of my subscribers are not Sixers fans, so I apologize for all the Sixers content. There's just so much going on, and I can't not talk about it. It's on my mind, right? And that is what this channel's for. I promise the next video will be on a different team. I will catch you guys on the next one. This is your boy D-Haven. As always, peace.